Novel Navigator. Chapter 41 Ruthless System. Water streamed down from the sink's faucet, splashing against the bloodied hands and pooling in the basin below. Adam washed his hands in silence, feeling the stinging pain of his two missing fingers. After leaving the third floor, he immediately returned to his room to change clothes and wash off the blood. After washing off the blood, he turned down the faucet and watched as the water mixed with his own blood before slowly draining away. Knock, knock. At that moment, hard-sounding knocks came from the door. He turned his head to the door, grabbed a towel, and quickly dried his hands while approaching the door. Then, with his elbow, he turned the handle and opened it to see who was on the other side. Ron was standing there, looking serious and thoughtful. Ron. Adam's eyebrow jumped in surprise. "May I come in?" Ron asked with his arms folded in front of him. "Sure." Adam nodded, went inside his room, and got seated on the bed. He then tossed the towel aside and revealed that his left hand only had 3 fingers left. "Your fingers." Ron closed the door and took a deep look at Adam's hand. "Well, do not fret, there is a thing called the Flask of Setting Sunday. They're not that rare and are popular and important items among mercenaries. It can recover your fingers in no time and only costs 500 shine coins." "That's a relief," Adam said with a slight fake smile. Of course, he knew about it, but his current self shouldn't have information about such things. "I have also lost more body parts than I can bother to count," Ron said with a chuckle. "It is painful, but pain makes you more alert and makes you better at surviving." Adam nodded and chuckled, putting his hand on his knee. "You came to talk to me about something." "Yeah, well." Ron rubbed his chin with a chuckle. "A few handlers are pissed. You killed their recruits." "What about you?" Adam asked curiously. "A thoughtful." Ron smirked. "There were a few promising recruits, Nick, Layla, and Comet. It's always a tragedy to see promising ones die before they can even start their journey. I saved lots of time from a few of the unlucky guilds." Adam said casually, then took a water canteen from his backpack and took a long sip. "What do you mean?" Ron asked in curiosity. "They would have wasted the precious time and money of the guild they would have joined in the future," Adam said with a very casual tone, as if he had seen it many times before. "They ambushed me, first with overwhelming power, but they split into 3 groups. A mistake that cost their lives. It is something one should never do when chasing someone. They underestimated me. Nick was the one leading. That same mistake most likely would have happened in the New World. In the New World, the consequences would be much harsher than here. What I did more good than not, at least that's my justification. In the end, I simply protected myself." "You say it like you know how it is in the New World." Ron rubbed his chin with narrowed eyes before wryly smiling. "However, you're right." "However," then Ron's expression turned stern as he asked. "But how do you feel about killing them? Destroying their dreams?" Adam turned silent and looked down, as if he were contemplating the answer. "While the mercenaries that get zeroed in the New World can still come back. They will be back at the starting point, and some can't handle that. Still, they can come back. However, recruits that die during the tutorial won't be allowed to return. Yeah, a ruthless system, but that is the life of the mercenaries." Adam replied with a grim nod. "I would have never gone after them myself. Even if I had the power to take all of them down. They came after me, and they must live with the consequences. That is the life of a mercenary. Some things go smoothly, and some will go horribly wrong. Mercenaries have to know how to handle that. It doesn't matter how I feel about killing them. They're the ones that have to think about their failure, not me." Ron looked at him silently, slowly cracking his knuckles, before laughing. "That is the life of a mercenary, indeed. I feel weird. As if I am talking to a veteran mercenary. Very strange indeed. Did you watch the video of my fight with them?" Adam asked curiously. I couldn't. Ron said. There weren't any video recording devices there. It was one of the blind spots of the third floor. Unfortunate, I suppose. Yeah, unfortunate. Adam smiled. I hope I will get to see one day the strength that was needed to kill them all. Ron said with a smirk. Maybe you will. Adam replied with a similar smirk. The tutorial is soon coming to an end. Ron opened the door to leave Adam's room. Your future is looking bright. I am just curious, do you know your place in the hierarchy? You think I am deviant? Adam asked. n/o/vel/b/jn.c//om. Yes. Ron nodded. You're special. Still, there are people in the new world who like to crush those who stand out. You have to know your place. Thank you for the advice. Adam responded, then stood up to bid Ron farewell. Ron nodded with a smile and said it in a joking tone. After the tutorial is over, you'll probably receive an invitation from the Crescent Serpents. Think about it. We're only Tier 3 guild, but our members are dedicated, and we have a lot of fun together. I'll think about it. Adam said with a chuckle. With that, Ron left the room and closed the door behind him. It looks like I made a good impression. Not on handlers, though, who have the power to decide my score. Adam thought to himself, then moved to the window and opened the curtains. It showed a misty outside world. It was a place where no one had ventured before. Muriel is the one that matters the most. However, I've got a feeling that she is currently grinning from ear to ear. She is a sadistic type, having fun with the fact that her co-workers are weeping in sorrow as their recruits are gone. Adam chuckled after his comedic thoughts, but jokes aside, he had a hunch that Muriel was indeed rejoicing. At the moment, it seemed like his score was looking great. However, Adam was still not completely satisfied. It will take time till the third floor's boss is found, and after that, the fourth floor. Adam touched his left hand, which had missing fingers, and knew that he would have to learn to fight with two missing fingers. Luckily, it would take a week or two to find the boss. 3. If they were extra unlucky. I could take some missions to earn shine coins meanwhile. I can still enter the second and first floors. Maybe I can also earn my first skill scroll before the third floor's boss. Adam moved his tongue inside his mouth, which he often did when he was thinking deeply. There was another method he often used, listening to music. It was something he enjoyed greatly. Whenever he logged out of the game, he would spend hours just sitting and listening to music. Sometimes, he browsed through the computer or jogged down the lonely streets of his hometown. Chapter 42 The First Skill. My legs are killing me. Yeah, mine too, but we gotta find that boss room. It had already been 3 weeks since the tutorial started, and I am starting to miss my family. Players whispered among themselves as they moved in and out of the doorway that led to the third floor. It had been a few weeks since they entered the third floor, and so far, they hadn't found the boss room. While that was happening, some of the players also hung around the mission board, planning to visit previous floors to do some missions to increase their point total. It was something that most of the players started to do after noticing that it would take some time for anyone to find the third floor's boss room. Most of the missions barely gave any points and were only a drop in the bucket compared to the points one would get from killing the boss of one of the floors. Still, every point mattered at this point. At that moment, the door of the first floor flashed, and from there, Adam stepped through while dressed in thick winter clothing. There were snowflakes falling from his coat. After Adam removed his winter gloves, he noticed a familiar figure standing near a mission board. She was writing something down on the clipboard. Muriel. Adam approached her and tapped her on the shoulder. Oh, she turned around and showed a smile. Welcome back. A successful mission, I hope. Yeah. Adam showed a bag of loot that he had collected. For some reason, the bag was bleeding and turning a deep shade of crimson. Muriel's nose scrunched up as she caught a whiff of the metallic scent. "Maybe you should take that to Flamekeeper," she suggested before focusing her gaze back on the mission board. "What are you doing?" Adam asked curiously. "Writing down stuff," she said. "Some players have gone missing after taking their missions. The time limit is also up. It means they're most likely dead. Anyone I should know about?" Adam asked curiously. He knew there was danger in every mission, but some players have a habit of chewing more than they can swallow. "The most noticeable ones are Samuel and Fama," Muriel said. "Their mission should have ended 3 days ago. If they're not back by now, they're most likely dead." "I see. I didn't really interact with them," Adam replied and shrugged his shoulders. "Any luck with the 3rd floor yet?" "Not that I know of," Muriel said. "They're done for tonight, as it is getting late. I heard they will be gathering in the common room tonight. Maybe you should go there as well." Adam nodded and then showed the bag. "First, I'll receive my reward. I think I can afford my first skill now." "Oh, a skill." Muriel's eyes brightened and she said, "You're the first one from this group with a skill. Good job." Well, see you later," Adam replied as he walked away with the bag slung over his shoulder. Muriel watched as he left, and once he was away, she turned back to the mission board, and a smile appeared on her beautiful face. She started humming a tune, rejoicing in the fact that she was currently the top handler of the tutorial. It was the first time for her. The handlers with the top recruit in the tutorial received that title. While some of the handlers already had it, gaining them greater status among their peers, this was Muriel's first time. As she didn't have that title before, she was treated differently from the rest. She was treated like a bad omen, and there was a chance that she was going to lose her job. Now, her future was secured. "Welcome back," Flamekeeper said in his elderly tone as if there was something stuck in his throat. His brown beard seemed to have grown even longer. Adam placed the bag on the counter and said, "The head of the snowworm, like requested." Flamekeeper quickly peeked inside, let out a chuckle and nodded, "Very good, indeed. I'll report to others that the mission has been successfully completed so you can get your points." Then, he reached out to his dusty pocket and brought out 5 shine coins before placing them on the table in front of Adam. Adam placed his own pouch of shine coins next to it. There were exactly 295 shine coins inside. "With that, I now have 300 shine coins. I want to purchase something." "What is it?" Flamekeeper asked with a curious expression. "That." Adam pointed at the wall behind him. There was a worn-out scroll tied to the wall, covered in dust, and barely visible in the dimly lit room. "Oh, a skill scroll." Flamekeeper grabbed it from the wall and placed it on the counter. "It is exactly 300 shine coins. It is a basic rank skill, the lowest rank." Flamekeeper then opened the scroll, and it had drawings of various sword techniques and their corresponding movements. Then, magically, information about the skill appeared in the air as holographic images. The words were written in calligraphy, blue in color, shimmering slightly in the light. Skill, Basic Blade Handling. Rank, Basic. Progress, 0%. Description, a basic skill that focuses on learning proper grip and control of a blade, essential for any aspiring swordsman. As my master taught me, the basics are the foundation of any skill. Adam said. "I know swordsmanship, but I am not great at it. I still have much to learn and improve upon. I'll begin with the basics and move on to more advanced techniques as I progress. This is a moment I'll have to decide what kind of fighter I want to become in the future. I already decided that I'd focus on Kiryoku, but I don't ignore the other 2 of the 3 powers. What kind of sword style would fit me the most with Kiryoku? I believe I will need to experiment and train with different styles to truly find the one that fits me best. Do you want to finish the transaction?" Flamekeeper asked with a smile. I do. Adam said, and as soon as Flamekeeper accepted the shine coins, the skill scroll appeared in Adam's inventory. Thank you for your purchase. Flamekeeper said, then bowed as much as he could with his tall and old body. Adam nodded, then left the merchant store and headed up the stairs towards the common room. It was where the other people from his group were going to have their meeting. I wonder how their search is going, he thought. After a short moment of walking, he pushed open a pair of doors and entered a cozy room with a fireplace crackling in the corner and windows showing the misty outside world. The walls, strangely enough, were built from wood, and there was a soft carpet covering the floor. The couches and chairs looked comfortable and inviting. It gave off a very homey and welcoming atmosphere. It made Adam remember the times when it was storming outside and he and his family would gather around the fireplace, playing board games and telling stories. Those times felt like an eternity ago. There were players gathered, some seated around a table playing some games, some reading a book near the fireplace, and some lounging on the floor with blankets wrapped around them. In the corner of the room, a group of players were discussing something. Adam heard words such as the third floor, boss, and such. Yo, Adam, want to play a game? Adam turned to the voice and saw Ramon and Hannibal rolling marbles on the table. It looked quite unique, and Adam recognized it. It was a game that was only playable in Mortal Online. Sure. Adam grinned. Chapter 43, The Mad Marbles. We'll need one more. Ramon said with a smirk while rolling the marbles in his hand. This game is better with 4. It is something we found in here, the common room. Hannibal said it with a grin. It's called the Mad Marbles. It is a crazy one, winning over any dull real-life games. Well then, let's try to find another player, then explain the rules. Adam said. He knew a lot about this game. It was something mercenaries played all the time during their missions and during some late-night gatherings. It was fun and competitive, and it always kept everyone on their toes. Who should be an exciting participant? Ramon looked around the common room with a watchful eye. I don't want some spineless coward, that's boring. At that moment, a voice came. Adam, you've returned. Donald stepped into the common room, and Ramon's eyes lit up with excitement. Donald, a man I was looking for, keek. Ramon laughed heartily. You have. Donald's eyebrow jumped. Play a game with us. Ramon showed the 4 marbles. A game of the Mad Marbles. How is it played? Donald asked and got seated, then said to Adam. We might find the boss room soon. We've gotten quite far. Adam nodded casually and turned to Ramon, then asked, what are the rules? We'll roll these marbles. Ramon rolled 1 marble for everyone and said, after you roll the marble, a number will appear on the marble between 1 and 20. The one with the highest score will start. Then, that person will become an attacker and can choose to attack one of the players. The attacker and the player will roll the marbles. If the player has doubled the score of the attacker, the attack will rebound for the attacker. If you get attacked, your marble will crack. If your marble gets destroyed, you're out of the game. Understood? Sounds simple. Donald said this and rolled his marble between his fingers. Is that all? Did you forget something? Adam asked curiously while trying to stop himself from smiling. Still with his fucking games, Ramon. Ramon scratched his cheek and exclaimed, ah. The one getting attacked can choose to skip 1 round. The attacker's round will also get skipped. Shall we start? Donald asked with a smile, feeling slightly excited. Ramon and Hannibal rolled the marble in their hands, smirked at each other, and nodded. Beside the table, a fireplace flickered and sent a glow of gold across the room, illuminating the faces of the 4 as they prepared to begin their game. The room was quite warm and smelled of burning wood and cinnamon. It didn't smell bad as the scent was quite faint and inviting. Adam threw his winter clothes inside his inventory as he started to sweat slightly. He was now wearing a light t-shirt and sweatpants with black socks and sneakers. He had purchased some new clothes from the clothing store for a fairly cheap price. The basic clothes were quite uncomfortable as they were made from low-quality materials. "Let's roll," Ramon said. At that moment, the four rolled their marbles to the center of the table. The marbles collided with each other with a soft click and came to a gentle stop. Ramon had a score of 6. Hannibal had a score of 11. Donald had a score of 12. Adam had a score of 2. "Ah," Adam wryly smiled, "the lowest score. I had the highest score, so I am now an attacker." Donald asked, making sure that he understood the rules correctly. "Yup, choose one of us three to attack," Ramon said with a smirk. "MMH." Donald looked around until his eyes landed on Adam and said, "I'll attack Adam." Adam's lips twitched, and he grabbed his marble from the center of the table. The others did the same. Ramon and Hannibal leaned against the backrests of their chairs, watching the confrontation unfold with amusement. "Will you skip or not?" Ramon asked Adam. "No, I am fine." Adam twirled the marble in his hand and prepared to roll. "Donald, let's roll at the same time." "Aight." Donald felt his heart beat against his chest nervously. 3, 2, 1. The countdown ended, and they both rolled their marbles across the table simultaneously. They happened to clash against each other with a loud clink. After the marbles slowly came to a stop, they revealed a number each. The four leaned closer to check out the score. Donald's score was 3. Adam's score was 17. Crack! Donald's marble cracked around the middle. It was still intact, but it wouldn't survive. Another 2 attacks. Cursed! Donald grimaced and let out a sigh of frustration. Strangely, Adam, Ramon, and Hannibal stayed quiet, looking straight at Donald. Donald's eyebrow rose, not understanding why they were looking at him. Smack! At that moment, a loud sound of flesh getting slapped resounded across the common room. Donald's head snapped to the side, a red mark appearing on his cheek. His eyes looked wide in a shocked expression. Several players looked around the common room, wondering where that strange noise came from. What the hell? Donald touched his stinging cheek and looked at the three with wide eyes. What was that? "Ah, I guess I forgot to mention." Ramon chuckled. "If your marble gets hurt, you receive some of the damage." Slap to the face. "What the?" Donald looked at the marbles in shock. "Magical items, what happens if the marble gets destroyed?" Punch in the face. Ramon put his fist against his own cheek and imitated a punch. "It'll hurt, but nothing you can't handle." "Sounds interesting." Adam said it with a chuckle. Ramon wasn't lying. It was mostly harmless, but the pain depended on the number the attacker had. This time, it was 17 out of 20, which was close to the pain of an ordinary slap. If the score had been 20, it would be equivalent to the strength of the real slap. "All right, let's continue." Hannibal said it with an impatient look. He was almost shaking with excitement. The four took their marbles and then rolled them at the same exact time. They rolled to the center of the table and collided there. The numbers instantly appeared on the marbles. The numbers appeared in a form of mist that soon took shape. Ramon's score was 10. Hannibal's score was 15. Donald's score was 1. Adam's score was 9. "Ha ha ha, let's go." Hannibal rubbed his hands with a grin. "Who'll you attack?" Ramon asked with a smile. Hannibal looked straight at Donald with a predator's gaze. "Donald." "Ah." Donald's face paled. "Now that my marble is damaged, they're targeting me to finish me off. If I lose this one, my marble is at its breaking point. Should I skip? No, I'll need to save my skip. If I win, Hannibal's marble will also get damaged, and I won't be targeted anymore. If I skip now, I'll just get attacked the next round again. This is a round I must win. Hannibal and Donald grabbed their marbles, then counted from the 3 before rolling them down the table. They clashed at the center of the table, and numbers appeared on each. Donald and Hannibal looked at the marbles. It was an important round for the whole outcome of the match. Chapter 44, 20. Hannibal's score was 1. Donald's score was 2. Donald looked surprised and asked, "Is it a tie? Who won?" "Look." Ramon pointed at the marbles. A crack appeared on one of the marbles. It was Hannibal's marble. Now, there were 2 cracked marbles at the center of the table. If it is a tie, the tiebreaker goes to the defender. "Whew, haha." Donald put his hands behind his head and leaned back in his chair with a satisfied grin. "Tch." Hannibal clicked his tongue, but then a large grin appeared on his face. His grin looked unnatural. Smack! A large sound of slap sounded across the common room. Hannibal's head snapped to the side with a red handprint on his cheek. During the slap, he didn't stop grinning even for a moment, not even when some blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. "Ha ha ha ha." Hannibal laughed and snapped his head back to the front. "That stung, ha ha ha." "Ha ha ha." Ramon joined in the laughter. "Come on, I want to get hurt as well, Kakik." The game of the Mad Marbles was extremely popular with mentally unstable people. Adam thought to himself as he saw the 2 lunatics laughing and grinning. If I recall correctly, Necroman Guild, which they were part of in the previous life, were known for their dangerous and sadistic games, like this one. In the end, this wasn't enough for them, and they started playing another version of the Mad Marbles. It was called the Killer Marbles. In that version, if the marble gets destroyed, that player will actually die and get zeroed. I once heard that Hannibal from the Necroman Guild was the undefeated champion of the Killer Marbles. He was the first person to win 5 times in a row, but even his streak came to an end eventually, and he lost his 6th match. Like in their previous lives, they seem to get addicted to this game, which will end up being their downfall. "Let's continue, I can't wait." Ramon shouted impatiently. The 4 took their marbles, and then, after the count of 3, they rolled them to the center of the table. They clashed at the center of the table and came to a slow stop. Ramon's score was 14. Hannibal's score was 6. Donald's score was 8. Adam's score was 20. Ramon's and Hannibal's expressions froze. "Oh, it is your turn." Donald turned to him and gulped, "Will he attack me out of revenge? I won't be able to win if I get attacked constantly." I chose Adam because Ramon and Hannibal seemed like a revenge type, but this is not going well for me. "Oh, 20. Adam chuckled and asked, "Since I got the highest point score, is there any rule regarding that?" "Actually, there is." Ramon clicked his tongue. "If you get the highest score, you will have 2 attacking turns." "What?" Donald exclaimed. "The first attack is the normal one, however, if the attacker loses in his second attack, they won't get any damage." Hannibal added with a serious look. "So they get 1 attack for free without any danger to them?" Donald said in shock. "Who will you attack first?" Ramon asked. Adam smiled and moved the marble gently in his hand. It looked like he was thinking. The game of the Mad Marbles wasn't all about luck. There were some strategies involved as well. Should I try to push Hannibal or Donald to the breaking point? No, there is a better solution. "Ramon, I'll attack you," Adam said with a smile. Ramon's lip twitched, "Sneaky fucker. If he hurts my marble, then he is the only one with perfectly intact marble. It is more worthwhile to go after others to try to eliminate them instead of wasting a turn trying to attack Adam. Also, if he wins this round, he has 1 free attack to try to push one of us 3 into the breaking point. He is currently in a great position. However, if I happen to win, the advantage will go to me. This is an important round that will decide the outcome of the match." Adam smiled with a carefree look. I have an advantage. Ramon has to double my score to win this round. That is still possible, but it is unlikely. Still, there is nothing else I can do except pray. As long as I don't get a low score, my chances of victory are immensely high. Let's roll. Ramon grabbed his marble and said, 1, 2, 3, roll. With the flick of their wrists, Ramon and Adam rolled the marble to the center of the table. They clashed against each other and came to an instant stop. Donald and Hannibal looked at the marbles with expectant looks. This was a very important round. Ramon's score was 11. Adam's score was 3. Yes, haha. Ramon jumped to his feet and cheered as if he had just won the whole match. Cursed. Adam gritted his teeth and prepared for the impact to land on his cheek. Crack as his marble softly cracked, a loud slap landed across Adam's face, leaving a burning sensation in its wake. Ah! Adam stumbled back, the taste of blood filling his mouth. Stings! He shook his head as if he had just taken a shot of powerful alcohol, trying to shake off the pain. Now the advantage is mine. Ramon giggled to himself as he saw 3 cracked marbles on the table, right beside his perfectly intact one. He felt like a barrier had appeared all around him, protecting him from any harm. It was now mostly worthless to try to attack him. Unless they want to equalize the situation. If he lost, the game would be equalized, but if he won, the attacker would be at breaking point. Unless the attacker had a free turn. I'll attack Ramon again. Adam said without hesitation and picked up his marble. This is the only way. I'll need to level up the playing field. Whew! Donald and Hannibal sighed in relief. This was extremely good news for them. They weren't in danger of getting pushed to the breaking point, and there was a chance that all 4 would be in the exact same position. That would increase their winning chances again. Ramon's face looked sour, as if he had eaten something bad. This was a very bad outcome for him. He was lucky to win the previous one, and the chances of winning yet another round were slim. You want to play? All right then. They exchanged powerful gazes, and then, at the exact same time, they rolled their marbles to the center of the table, where they clashed and made a loud clinking noise. As soon as the marble stopped rolling, they showed numbers, and instantly, cheers filled the table. Ramon's score was 7. Adam's score was 7. Damn it! Ramon face-palmed with an ugly look. He would have needed 14 or above to win the round. Whew! Adam breathed out in relief and then smiled. Donald and Hannibal cheered as this greatly increased their odds. Even though Hannibal was Ramon's friend, he also wanted to win. This was a good outcome for everyone else except Ramon. Crack, smack. After the crack, an invisible hand smacked Ramon across his face. However, his head didn't move even the slightest as he tanked all the impact and the pain. Whoa! Ramon exclaimed and laughed heartily, already forgotten about his loss as the pain brought a strange amount of pleasure to him. All right then, it is currently a tie. The 4 exchanged looks. The next round was going to be tricky. No one really wanted to be the attacker this time. Chapter 45, The Breaking Point. This round, it is better not to be either attacker or defender. Adam thought. It is now important to not get any more damage to the marble. Whoever reaches the breaking point first will be targeted. Now, the attacker can lose a round and end up at the breaking point. It will be a very tough position to be in. Let's roll. Ramon said, rolled up his sleeves, and revealed some hidden tattoos. They weren't as visible as his face tattoo. It looked like the tattoos on his forearms were his first tattoos, as he wanted to start with something small. At that moment, the 4 rolled their marbles down the table, each marble spinning until they collided at the center of the table. Some curious players watched from the sidelines, not daring to interrupt the game but still watching with interest. Nico, Donald's friend, watched the marbles collide with a look of anticipation on his face. This game looked quite interesting to him. However, the most interesting part was the four that were playing it: Ramon, Hannibal, Donald, and Adam, the four top players of the tutorial. In a dark room, a screen flickered, showing the common room and the four top players, who were completely immersed in the game. Ron, with his legs crossed on the table and his other hand holding a bottle of beer, watched the game with a smirk. A game of the Mad Marbles, ah, the good old days. He chuckled, reminiscing about his tutorial days. He was just like them, sitting around a table with his friends and playing the Mad Marbles. He still played it occasionally. Sometimes, after a long mission, he went to the tavern in Donwatch and ordered a drink, then played a few games. I also never expected to see these four sitting around the same table, playing. Ron chuckled and chugged down the beer. I guess anything is possible in this world. Oh, the numbers were rolled. From a mist, numbers appeared inside the marbles, showing the score of every player. Ramon's score was 16. Hannibal's score was 15. Donald's score was 11. Adam's score was 15. Now I am an attacker, typical. Ramon said sarcastically and took his marble from the center of the table. Everyone else took their marbles as well and turned their gazes on Ramon. He shouldn't go after me, right? Donald thought to himself and glanced at Adam. He should be going for revenge, I feel like. Without Adam, he would have been sitting nicely at the top position right now. I'll attack. Ramon looked straight at Adam before grinning, then turned to the side. Hannibal. What? Donald's eyes widened, completely shocked by Ramon's choice. He didn't expect Ramon to attack his friend. Adam shook his head with a smile. Haha, you motherfucker. Hannibal grinned widely and showed his slightly cracked marble. The game's on, bastard. Ha 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 ha. Ramon laughed and threw his marble at Hannibal with full force. Hannibal slapped the marble away and, at the same time, rolled his marble after it with precision. Soon, the two marbles clashed and rolled to the other ends of the table. However, before those marbles fell off the table, they steered towards the edge and hung there, suspended in mid-air. It was as if those were held back by an invisible power. Then, as if the marbles were magnets, they suddenly moved towards each other and collided in a loud crash. Numbers appeared on the marbles. Ramon's score was 19. Hannibal's score was 4. It was a crushing victory. Smack! Hannibal's head snapped to the side, and he fell off the chair. He landed sideways on the ground, one cheek stinging in pain and a taste of blood filling his mouth. The chair fell after him and fell over his legs with a silent thud. Crack! Hannibal's marble cracked, and now it looked like a spider web of destruction. It was just an inch away from shattering into a million pieces. Damn it! Hannibal stood back up, cursing under his breath. He then didn't bother picking up the chair and instead leaned on the table, planning to stand instead. Well, attack me if you dare. He is now at the breaking point, and getting rid of him should be the wise thing to do. Donald thought to himself. We could either try to finish him off or try to get another to breaking point. Adam rubbed his chin, but since the one at the breaking point was Hannibal, he had an idea. The four picked up their marbles again and rolled them to the center of the table. Soon, the numbers again appeared. Ramon's score was 4. Hannibal's score was 9. Donald's score was 11. Adam's score was 10. The decision lays in my hands. Donald bit his finger nervously. Should I attack Hannibal? I could also go for Ramon and Adam, try to get them to the breaking point. However, then I would most likely get attacked next round. If I win against Ramon, then if Adam gets attacker, he will try to push me to the breaking point. If I lose against Ramon, I will be at breaking point, but then Ramon and Adam will probably battle each other. I might be off the radar unless Hannibal goes after me. I now have an advantage, and I should go for Hannibal. That's the best solution to ensure my victory. I don't want to battle either Hannibal, Ramon, or Adam individually. If Hannibal is gone, it will be us three at the exact same point. They might treat each other as the bigger threat while ignoring me. At that moment, Donald's eyes widened as he remembered one rule that he had completely forgotten so far. The skip rule. Will Hannibal choose to skip? That would make my turn completely useless. Donald gulped, realizing that attacking Hannibal wasn't a good choice after all. He then glanced between Ramon and Adam, biting his finger nervously. Who shall I attack? Adam rolled the marble in his hand, keeping his attention solely on the marble. Ramon crossed his arms and glared at Donald with deadly intensity. Donald gulped and said, I'll attack Adam. Good choice. Ramon said coldly, then grinned widely. Adam didn't react at all and continued rolling the marble in his hand. He ignored all the glances from the watching players and the fellow contestants. He then closed his eyes softly and hummed a song inside his mind as he was thinking about his next move. Humming and listening to songs always calmed him down and helped him to think. Let's roll. Donald said impatiently. Adam softly opened his eyes, revealing his navy blue eyes. They looked deep, making the rest of his face look more mysterious and handsome. 3. As Donald started the countdown, he suddenly heard a voice. I'll skip, Adam said, shocking all the contestants and causing the game to come to a halt. What? Donald exclaimed. Why did he do that? He wasted his only skip. If he reaches the breaking point, he'll definitely be targeted first. Why did he do that? Donald, your turn's over, Ramon said, picking up his marble. Let's roll again. Adam picked up his marble, the others already had their marbles in their hands. They then rolled them across the table, watching as they spun and collided with each other. Numbers appeared on them. Chapter 46, the first one to lose. Ramon's score was 18. Hannibal's score was 5. Donald's score was 8. Adam's score was 19. All the eyes landed on Adam. This was an important decision. However, it looked like he had already decided on who to choose. I'll attack Donald. Adam said casually. Arg. Donald grimaced. I shouldn't have attacked Adam. That was a mistake on my part. They both picked up their marbles and prepared themselves for the next round. Hannibal and Ramon picked up their marbles so they wouldn't be in the way. As the fire crackled and the logs burned at the nearby fireplace, Donald and Adam counted from 3 and then rolled them across the table. They clashed at the center. Donald's score was 11. Adam's score was 12. No. Donald called out inside his mind. Crack! Donald's marble cracked, and it was now on the breaking point. It looked as broken as Hannibal's marble. Smack! A resounding slap landed on Donald's cheek, leaving a bright red mark that stung with pain. He was stunned for a moment, but it wasn't as strong as the previous slap. Ramon picked up the 2 marbles from the center of the table and handed them over to Donald and Adam. It looked like he was too impatient and wanted to start the next round already. Let's roll. He said excitedly, and after counting from 3, they all rolled their marbles to the center of the table. Cling, clang. The numbers appeared inside the marbles, made of thick mist that slowly dissipated. Ramon's score was 10. Hannibal's score was 15. Donald's score was 2. Adam's score was 2. A silence fell over the table as this was a shocking outcome. Hannibal's smile froze as he began mulling over things. This is very interesting. Adam thought to himself. As an attacker, Hannibal can't use his skip. If he loses, his marble will be destroyed. Will the so-called undefeated champion of the killer marbles be the first one to lose? After a short time, Hannibal smiled and said, I'll attack Donald. Ramon's and Adam's heads turned towards Donald. Donald's face paled. I knew this would happen. He clenched his hand into a fist. He wants me to use a skip so his attack turn will be skipped. A smart move, really fucking smart. I guess these two aren't just crazy lunatics that like pain. They have a brain inside their heads. Still, should I skip? If I manage to win this turn, his marble will be destroyed. But the chance of me winning is slim. Also, if Hannibal is out of the game, Ramon and Adam will definitely target me so they can fight each other for the victory. It would be basically 1v2, it is suicide. Donald touched his head as if he were having a headache and weakly said, I'll skip. Now, if Ramon or Adam gets the attacker, they'll definitely target me as I don't have a skip, but that was the only choice I had. I am now in the worst position. Donald glanced at Hannibal, who was smiling carefreely, and then picked up his mostly broken marble. He saw his broken reflection in the cracked surface. Hannibal, can we roll our marbles and see what scores we would have had? Donald asked curiously. Hannibal's eyebrow jumped, and he turned to Ramon. Ramon rubbed his chin. Rules said that ain't allowed as it removes the suspense whether your decision was correct or not. However, this is for fun, either way, and I am also curious, so go ahead. Hannibal and Donald exchanged glances, then rolled their nearly broken marbles to the center of the table. They clashed at the center, and it was a shock that both of them didn't shatter to pieces. Numbers appeared. Hannibal's score was 9. Donald's score was 10. It was Hannibal's victory. Whew! Donald breathed a sigh of relief after making the correct decision. That was so close. Hannibal scoffed. All right, let's continue. Ramon said with a smile. The four picked up their marbles and then, after the count of 3, rolled them across the table again. They met at the center, and the numbers appeared inside the cracked marbles. Ramon's score was 15. Hannibal's score was 15. Donald's score was 11. Adam's score was 13. A tie. Donald looked surprised and forgot that it was possible to have a tie when choosing the attacker. Adam chuckled and shook his head. Another rule they forgot to mention. This is the reason why making alliances during the game of the Mad Marbles is important. Ah, right, I completely forgot about this. Ramon scratched the back of his head and chuckled. Since it is a tie, me and Hannibal are both attackers. Both of you are? Donald said in shock. Yeah. Ramon said with a chuckle. We can either attack the same person, where the defender has to do 2 rounds of defending, or we can both attack different people. We can even attack each other. This is a big rule they happened to forget to mention. Donald said with a pale face. Ramon and Hannibal are friends, so they will definitely work together. If I had known about this rule, I would have tried to make an alliance with Adam. This is very bad. Will they try to attack me to finish me off? I don't have a skip left anymore. So, there is a chance that there can be 3 or even 4 attackers. Adam said. Yeah, but the chances are slim to none. Ramon laughed and turned to his friend. Ready? Ready. Hannibal chuckled. I'll attack Adam. I'll attack Adam as well. Ramon said with a loud laugh. They're ganging up on him. Donald shouted inside his mind. If Adam loses both rounds, he is out of the game. Who is going first? Adam asked with a calm look. I'll do it. Ramon said with a laugh. You ready? Yeah, Adam said shortly. Ramon quickly counted from the 3, and then they both rolled their marbles. As soon as the marbles stopped, numbers appeared on them. Ramon's score was 9. Adam's score was 15. It was Ramon's victory. Crack! As soon as Adam's marble cracked, a slap landed on his cheek. Ah! Adam touched his stinging cheek and then turned to his cracked marble. It looked like it was barely being held together by glue. He lost. Donald thought. One more loss, and he is out. Ready? Hannibal said with a grin. Adam picked up his marble with a cold look and nodded sternly. Whoever loses this round will be out of the game. Donald was in shock. Will it be Adam or Hannibal? Who will lose? Ramon watched with keen interest, a smile playing on his lips. At that moment, without counting down, they both rolled their marbles to the center of the table. They clashed with a gentle echo and came to a stop. Again, numbers appeared inside the cracked marbles. The surrounding players, the ones watching from the control room, and the 4 contestants, leaned closer to get a better look at the numbers inside. As soon as the numbers appeared, there were shocked gasps from the crowd. Hannibal's score was 10. Adam's score was 10. It was Hannibal's victory. Crack! Adam's marble cracked one last time and then shattered into very tiny pieces. Those pieces glowed for a moment, but then they turned into water and got sucked inside the table, disappearing completely. He lost. Donald looked at Adam in shock. Adam lost. Chapter 47, The Winner. Smash! An invisible punch landed on Adam's face, knocking him off the chair and down to the ground. Drip, drip. A little bit of blood dripped from his nose and onto the carpet. Adam pinched his nose, trying to stop his bleeding. At that moment, a hand with a handkerchief reached out to him. Here. Catalina showed a bright smile as she reached out to him, offering the handkerchief. Thanks. Adam accepted it and wiped the blood off his nose. The handkerchief smelled like her perfume. I guess I lost. He thought with a wry smile and pocketed the handkerchief. I was never good with the mad marbles. I suppose my luck is not that good. Need a hand? Catalina asked as she offered a hand. No need. Adam patted his pants and stood back up. He then picked up his chair and sat back down at the table. Mau, fine. Catalina waved her hand dismissively and returned back to her friends, who were sitting on a couch chatting and laughing, the misty window behind them showing rain droplets running down the glass. Haha, unlucky. Ramon grinned. It's just a game, don't take it to heart. I am fine. Adam smiled and combed his hair back with his hand. Continue the game, it isn't over yet. Ramon and Hannibal turned to Donald and showed beastly grins. Donald gulped nervously. At that moment, the 3 rolled their marbles, and the numbers showed. Ramon's score was 10. Hannibal's score was 9. Donald's score was 11. This is my chance. Donald's eyes brightened, and he then shouted excitedly. I'll attack Ramon. I'll skip. Ramon said with a sadistic grin. NGH. Donald gritted his teeth. Fucker. They picked up their marbles and again rolled them to the center of the table. With a cling, the 3 marbles came to a stop and showed the numbers. Ramon's score was 11. Hannibal's score was 1. Donald's score was 5. I'll attack Donald. Ramon said as he bared his teeth. Donald angrily took his marble to his hand, then blew hot air into it as if it were helping, and then, after the count of 3, they both rolled the marbles to the center of the table. As soon as they clashed, the numbers appeared. Ramon's score was 3. Donald's score was 12. Crack! Ramon's marble cracked from the middle, causing his smile to freeze suddenly. Smack! A slap echoed through the room. Ramon touched his stinging pain and let out a slight groan of pain. It felt like someone had just punched him in the teeth. Oh, shit! Hannibal laughed. How come I am suddenly in an advantageous position? Right, Hannibal is the only one with the skip left. Donald gulped nervously. Ha 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 ha, how interesting. Ramon picked up his marble, and the others did the same. They then rolled their marbles to the center of the table. Ramon's score was 16. Hannibal's score was 1. Donald's score was 16. Tie! Donald exclaimed inside his mind. Oh! Hannibal chuckled. Interesting. I'll attack Donald. Ramon shouted. I'll attack Hannibal! Donald shouted. I'll skip! Hannibal said with his arms crossed. After the skip, there was only one attacker, and that was Ramon. Ramon and Donald exchanged glares, then they picked up their marbles and rolled them to the center of the table. Ramon's score was 9. Donald's score was 20. Crack! Ramon's marble cracked and shattered. Oh shit! Ramon's eyes shot wide open, and then a powerful punch landed on his nose, knocking him off the chair onto the carpeted floor. All the air left his body after the collision with the floor. Motherfuck! Hannibal glared at Donald, but he returned the same intense stare. With adrenaline rushing through their veins, they picked up their marbles and rolled them to the center of the table. Hannibal's score was 9. Donald's score was 17. It was Donald's turn to attack. I'll attack Hannibal! Donald screamed and snatched his marble from the center of the table. The hell? Hannibal picked up his marble, sweat trickling down his head. In an instant, their clear advantage crumbled to pieces as somehow Donald's luck had increased by tenfold in the past minute. Oh ho! Adam smirked with interest. An unexpected winner, maybe. After the count of 3, Donald and Hannibal rolled their marbles to the center of the table. As soon as they clashed, numbers appeared on the marbles. Hannibal's score was 17. Donald's score was 13. It was Donald's crushing victory. Crack! With a crack, Hannibal's marble shattered, and then an invisible punch landed squarely in his face. H-A-A-A, H-A-A-A. Donald panted heavily and asked shakily. Did I win? You did it! Nico cheered from the sidelines, and claps came from the other players. Ah, ha 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 ha. Donald laughed and stood up with a victorious look. Woohoo! Good match, Adam said, and then stood up as he planned to depart for his room. It was getting late, and he still wanted to take a shower. Wait a moment. Ramon rubbed his aching face and said, what about a rematch? I don't want to end this with Donald's victory. Hell nah. H-A-A-A. Donald scoffed at the challenge. You really think you have a chance at beating me? Why, you bastard! Ramon grinned viciously and rubbed his hands together as he was preparing to throw hands. What did you say? Enough. Adam stepped between them and showed his silver timepiece that showed the time. It is quite late. Humph. Ramon reluctantly backed off and helped his friend, Hannibal, from the ground, who was still feeling the effect of the punch. Donald fist bumped with Nico, still feeling the adrenaline rushing through his veins. He never expected to win, especially against those three. It made him feel invincible. Tap, 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 slam. The door slammed wide open, and a loudly panting young man entered the common room. He looked slightly dirty, as if he hadn't taken a shower for over a week. It was because he had spent most of the time on the 3rd floor. He believed that by finding the boss room, he would get a great deal of points. I found the boss room. As soon as his words left his lips, the common room turned silent. The players, no matter what they were saying, turned to the young man in shock. The ones resting under a warm blanket stood up, the ones reading a book closed it shut, and the ones talking with their friends paused mid-sentence, all eyes fixed on him. You found the boss room? Ramon approached the young man with a scary look. The young man gulped after seeing the scary tattooed man approaching him and backed off slightly, but then nodded nervously. Where? Show me. Ramon grabbed the young man by his shoulders and was about to drag him to the 3rd floor. Wait a second, Ramon. Donald quickly picked up his jacket from the table and came to them. What? Ramon asked impatiently. I am not sure about you, but I already want to leave the tutorial. There is a bigger world awaiting us. Rushing this won't make a single difference. A calm voice sounded, belonging to Adam. His words carried a lot of weight, as he was considered the top player in the tutorial. Other players, even if some of them didn't like him, still listened to him. Especially after what happened a couple of weeks ago. The group that was ahead of them suddenly disappeared, and they became the oldest group in the tutorial. There was a rumor that Adam killed them all, that's why he was in such a poor state back then. So, we'll wait, or what? Ramon scoffed. When did you drop your balls, Adam? No, fool. Adam sighed and rolled his eyes. The door to the third floor is closed, do you know why? Ramon frowned and shook his head. During the night, the third floor is locked for security reasons. The third floor's chaos beings only move during the night, except for the boss. Even if the door wasn't locked now, I don't think we could make it to the boss room. TCH. Ramon removed his hands from the young man's shoulders and threw his arms in the air. Fine, but we'll leave as soon as the floor opens again. If you oversleep, we won't be waiting for you. Chapter 48, The Chaos Warrior. The misty haze of the morning sun filtered through the clouded window, casting a warm glow on the old wooden floor. With the sun on his back, Adam sat at the edge of his bed with a thoughtful look. His interface floated right in front of him, which had slightly changed. Name, Adam Palestar. Level, 0. XP, 0/0. HP, 50/50ths. Rank, Coin Feeder. Weapon, Steel Short Sword and Round Shield. Shine Coin, 0. Skills. Little God. Basic Blade Handling. Inventory. Log off. 2 skills had appeared. If I recall correctly, Little God skill wasn't there to begin with. Therefore, it appeared as soon as I used it the first time. I suppose it counted as me learning it. Basic blade handling appeared like it was supposed to. It is still at 0%, and I can't really use it in combat yet. It isn't a normal skill. It is a passive skill. It increases my handling of the sword. It is like the Little God skill, which is passive. Unlike active skills, I don't need to shout out the skill name for it to work. However, Little God is still the strangest passive skill. It activates when I want to, so it is basically a mix of passive and active skills. I still don't need to say Little God out loud for it to work. After I learn basic blade handling, my swordsmanship will increase slightly. I've already seen the effects of my swordsmanship, as I am not as good as a swordsman as I was in my previous life. Not that I was any good, I was decent enough, I guess, but compared to the best sword masters, I was way behind. I had learned all the way to expert blade handling and I can see the effects clearly. In his previous life, Adam's style of fighting was a mixture of different things. He used a sword and shield to fight, and his role in the guild was that of a tank. Tank's job was to protect magic masters while they bombarded chaos beings with their magical spells. His swordsmanship was above average, his skill with the shield was considered good as he was able to defend against attacks from sword masters. However, he was still considered a powerhouse as his level was quite high, and even without that, because of Little God's skill, he was able to fight mercenaries that were higher level than him. There was one thing that he was considered a master at: movement. His Little God skill and his natural speed made him an enemy that was both respected and feared. On battlefields, he killed hundreds before the enemy was even able to see what was happening. It was also the reason why Calamity chose to use a specific type of chaos being essence as poison. It nullified his speed as it completely paralyzed him. Calamity was afraid of his movement. He knew that if Adam could move freely, they wouldn't have been able to kill him. Adam would have killed his treacherous friends and could have put in a proper battle against Calamity. However, it was still unlikely he would have been able to beat Calamity, who stood near the apex of power. Still, he would have been able to escape. None of the mercenaries ever considered tanks to be quick. They were often muscular, slow, and physically powerful. That's why Adam was an anomaly and a big threat. I don't have time to learn the basic blade handling for now. Adam pulled out his silver timepiece, checked the time, and saw it was soon time for the third floor to open. The third floor's boss. Third floor, 3 hours past dawn. A group of players walked down the rock-walled passageways, following behind a young man with short hair and a slicked-back style. Most players were yawning and rubbing their sleepy eyes. They stayed awake for so long in the common room that they only had a few hours of sleep. Here! The young man shouted excitedly, pointing towards a large wooden door at the end of the hallway. It took 3 hours to walk here. Adam checked the time on his timepiece and added that to his mind. All right, let's work together, guys. Donald said, trying to encourage everyone to work together. However, to many, the second floor was a one-time thing. This time, most of the different groups were planning to do this alone instead of collaborating. Adam stayed silent, drew his short sword with his right hand, and pulled out a shield from his back with his left. Remember the attack patterns, remember. Ramon quickly walked over to the heavy-looking wooden door and slammed his hands against it. Then, while grunting and screaming, he pushed the heavy door open. As the door opened, lanterns lit up across the ceiling and the floor. The room was a big chamber, filled with weapons and armor lining up the walls. There were skeletons, holding rusty weapons, lying beside the armor racks. All the skeletons had similarities. It looked like they had been slashed by sharp objects as there were sword wounds on their bones. The skeletons appeared to have been warriors who died in battle. The players slowly entered the room, slowly moving forward as if they were all hesitating to step further. At that moment, a sword fell from the ceiling and stabbed through the ground, right in the middle of the chamber room. It looked massive and ancient, with a large blade and long handle. It definitely wasn't a one-handed sword. It also seemed too heavy to be wielded with 2 hands. Just what kind of person can wield that kind of weapon? A player whispered to himself, but it was heard by nearby players. They also gulped and nodded, wondering the same thing. CCC crack. At that moment, the ceiling collapsed onto the heavy-looking sword, but amidst all the dust and debris, a figure emerged with one hand wrapped around the sword's hilt. The players drew their weapons and moved to their attacking stances. But then, their eyes widened as text appeared over the figure. The Chaos Warrior, Kuruma. Health, 100%. Health as a percentage. Ramon furrowed his brows and tightened his hold on his machete. This is different, very different. The children's games have been played. Adam thought with a serious look. First and second floors are a joke compared to this and the rest of the dungeon. The real, dangerous chaos beings have their health as percentages. Bloody Chaos Being and the Clown Boy are considered minor chaos beings, even if they're floor bosses. They're still nothing compared to the real threats, like the Chaos Warrior. After the dust cleared, everyone saw a rusty armored figure, enormously tall. It was nearly 5 meters tall, bulging with muscles beneath the thick armor. It wore rusty armor with a helmet that covered the entirety of its face. It didn't have any visible weaknesses or openings in its armor. At that moment, Kuruma raised its sword with one hand. It didn't seem to even struggle as it lifted the heavy weapon above its head. Swoosh, an arrow flew from somewhere and landed on Kuruma's chest. However, it bounced off harmlessly, as if the arrow were made out of plastic. A player, with a bow in hand, paled and stumbled backwards with a pale face. He felt naked, as he felt like he was currently being stared at by Kuruma, even though its head wasn't facing his direction. At that moment, Kuruma's head snapped to the left, staring straight at the archer, and then it lunged forward like a bolt of lightning. It was surprisingly quick for someone of its size. Ah! The archer froze in horror. Kuruma lifted its sword high and then smashed it down on the archer. Clang! Smash! Chapter 49, Natural Born Tanker. At that moment, a shield appeared in the path of the sword, and loud explosions sounded as the two objects collided. Smash! Arg! Adam's knees bent, and he was almost forced to sit on his knees, but he was barely able to hold back the enormous sword that threatened to crush him. How did he block that? Ramon thought to himself, in shock. The attack looked far too powerful. It was supposed to go straight through the shield and smash Adam in one blow, but somehow Adam managed to stop it. Its sword is huge, and Kuruma's frame is as big, making everyone think it is a super powerful monster. Adam grinned through pain, and then, with shocked gasps from nearby players, he pushed the sword back. It has no technique whatsoever. It is still a mindless creature, just swinging its sword around. Therefore, it can't use all the power that is stored in its body. At that moment, Kuruma lifted its heavy sword and started smashing it down repeatedly on the shield that was barely holding up. The shield's durability started decreasing at a steep speed. Adam blocked the sword and then let it slide down the shield. Then he stepped forward and rammed straight into Kuruma, knocking him a step backwards. His impressive defensive capabilities surprised all the onlookers. Even Ron and the handlers in the control room watched the fight with wide eyes. It was clear that Adam wasn't an amateur. He was the lead tanker of Star Faction, one of the biggest factions in the history of Mortal Online. He was considered one of the greatest tankers to have ever lived, but his lack of level didn't make him the absolute greatest. Because he was often fighting enemies that were higher leveled than him, he learned ways to battle against stronger foes. This was why he was able to fight against Kuruma on equal ground. In this new life, he had yet to go all out. "I'll attract its aggro," Adam shouted loud enough for everyone to hear. "Keep your distance and be ready to attack when its defense is down." The players nodded their heads and took their positions on the sidelines. He would be an excellent tank. Dakota, leaning against the wall, said while looking at the screen. "Great innate talent. He knows how to perfectly absorb his enemy's attacks and redirect the damage." Tanks are considered meat shields, but they are also the protectors of the party's most important members. Ron said and then smiled. They're also the real leaders of any party, as they have the responsibility of keeping everyone alive and in line during battles. They are lucky that they have someone like Adam with them. Dakota said. "Donald is good and all, but he doesn't have a presence great enough to make everyone listen to him. Adam uses his strength to command respect." Muriel watched the screen with admiration. She had handled many different players with unique personalities, but Adam stood out as a true leader. "Strong doesn't follow the weak follow the strong to become strong." Muriel repeated the words Adam once said to her. Now, on the screen, a perfect example of those words was being displayed. Kuruma swung its sword down with an overhead slash, but again, the round shield blocked it and redirected the attack towards the ground. It couldn't stop its own swing, and it eventually crashed straight to the ground. The heavy blade got stuck in the ground. It was trying to pull it out, but it was firmly lodged in place. "Now!" Adam shouted. Swoosh, swoosh. Arrows flew over the heads of the players and landed directly on Kuruma's armor, but the rusty armor was able to withstand the attack. At that moment, the players rushed in from all sides and hacked down their weapons at the armor. The rusty armor bent under the force of the blows, revealing a glimmer of light underneath. The armor started shredding, and instead of flesh, there was a body made out of light underneath. Adam stabbed his sword through one of the gaps in the armor and stabbed into the flesh of light. The attack was successful as Kuruma started screaming and started bleeding a strange kind of light blood. The light blood splattered on the ground, sizzling as it made contact with the earth. With that, Kuruma's health started to slowly drop. Kuruma screamed and writhed in pain, then pushed the players away from it. It then grabbed its heavy sword with both hands and pulled it out of the ground. The players paled and quickly retreated. As Kuruma was about to strike, Adam suddenly appeared in front of it with a shield in front of him. He immediately attracted Kuruma's anger as it recognized him as the one who stabbed it. Come on! Adam smacked his sword against his round shield, creating a high-pitched noise that clearly angered Kuruma even further. Kuruma, with a low growl, charged at Adam and swiped its sword at him. It was a heavy-handed slash that seemed to be powerful enough to cut through a thick tree trunk. Adam's eyes narrowed, and then his legs started swelling as his muscles bulged outwards as if they were trying to rip through his flesh. Swoosh! As Kuruma's slash finished its swing, Adam suddenly disappeared, and the slash only went through empty wind. At that moment, a deep cut wound appeared on its neck, and then light blood spurted out like a fountain. Adam reappeared in the air behind Kuruma and softly landed back on the ground, but his legs were shaking and his lips were pale, as if he had suddenly lost a lot of blood. NGH. He coughed slightly, holding onto his wound in pain. -15 HP. He hadn't fully recovered from using Little God against Nick and the others from his group. Therefore, doing it again, caused a significant health drop. What? Ramon whispered in shock, sharing the same look with other players. He never went all out against me? What is this? What the fuck was that? Ron shot up from his seat, his eyes widening in disbelief. That speed, how? Dakota looked surprised. Not only was he fast, his accuracy was insane. As he was about to get slashed by the sword, he jumped in the air, slashed through Kuruma's neck, and avoided colliding with Kuruma by rotating his body mid-air. None of that was by accident. Ron said with a serious look. I can still easily track him with my eyes, and I've seen hundreds of mercenaries move as fast as him, or even faster, but those are all veteran mercenaries. Adam is only coin feeder. I have only worked here for 2 years, but during that time, I haven't seen anyone like him. Dakota said with a sense of awe and admiration in her voice. Ron. Muriel walked over to him while hugging the clipboard against her chest. We need to talk. Ron looked at her and nodded. I know what you're about to say. Still, let's talk. Muriel nodded and looked to the screen, a small smile rising on her lips. Kuruma fell down on its knees and tried to stop its neck from bleeding. Its health had already dropped to 70%. Attack! Adam ordered it with a powerful shout. The players flinched and then nodded. Then, from every possible angle, they started raining Kuruma with blows and attacks. The armor cracked and shattered, revealing the vulnerable creature beneath. The health slowly dropped, and soon it reached the 50% mark. At that moment, Adam quickly shouted. Retreat, now! No one questioned why, and everyone followed his lead, sprinting away from the dangerous creature. Kuruma stayed on its knees, and it wasn't moving an inch. Its armor was cracked and falling apart. It looked like it was easy to kill, as it wasn't moving an inch. Adam covered his upper body with his round shield and took a low stance. Here it comes. Chapter 50, White Craft. The large sword in Kuruma's hand had a slight change in color. A shade of white started to spread from the hilt to the tip of the blade. It was very faint, but still noticeable next to the silver metal. During its second phase, Kuruma is able to use craft, one of the 3 powers. Kuruma's humming intensified as it lifted the sword above its head, preparing to unleash the most destructive attack so far. Craft had the ability to coat weapons and objects with a layer of protection that was extremely hard to break through. It also increased the attack prowess vastly. Kuruma's craft was at the lowest level, white, but the difference in attacks between craft and without was extremely vast. After white, the next color would be black, which would make the weapon even stronger and more durable. Then purple, then red, and finally golden. Once one's craft becomes more powerful, the color changes. In his previous life, Adam managed to reach purple, which already made his attacks and defense extremely potent. With purple, he rarely needed to visit a blacksmith to fix his weapons, as his swords and shields didn't receive almost any damage. White craft is at the lowest rank, but it still can slice through my shield like a hot knife through butter. Adam lowered his stance, his knees bent, and his grip on the sword tightened. In the control room. He has to dodge. Ron shouted urgently. If he plans to block the attack fused with white craft, the shield will break. However, does he know? Dakota said with a wry smile. I didn't mention this part in my class for a reason. They have to learn this the hard way. There are some attacks that you shouldn't try to block. Muriel nervously looked at the screen as Kuruma was about to launch its attack. Kuruma, with a low growl, swung its enormous sword over its head towards the small human in front of it. While Adam was not short by any means, in front of Kuruma, he looked very small. What a powerful attack! Ramon, standing on the sidelines, instantly felt that this was a different attack from the rest. His senses were surprising sharp. Adam quickly leaped backwards out of danger's way. He chose to dodge, much to the relief of many. Smash! Crack! The large sword sliced through the ground without any effort, shocking all the players. This was an extremely powerful attack. At that moment, many broken pieces of the ground flew towards Adam like a flurry of bullets. Adam quickly covered his body behind his shield and blocked the incoming projectiles with ease. If he hadn't done so, those broken pieces could have actually caused some severe injuries, especially since some of them looked quite sharp. The large sword wasn't the only thing that could injure him. It was also the environment around him that posed a threat. After the dust cleared, Kuruma effortlessly lifted its enormous sword. It didn't look happy that its attack had failed. I could easily combat Kuruma with speed, but I can't handle that in my current state. I don't want to exhaust myself and make myself an easy target. Adam thought to himself and then glanced towards the other players, wondering if any of them could be of any use. None of them seemed strong enough to take on Kuruma. There is only one thing I can do. Adam stomped on the ground and suddenly started running towards Kuruma, with the shield in front of him and his sword next to him. Kuruma grabbed its large sword with both hands, raised it high above its head, and then swung it down with all its might. It was so big that it looked like it could cut straight through Adam and leave no crumbs behind. At that moment, Adam's body leaned dangerously forward, it looked like he was about to trip, and as the players were about to cry in horror, he quickly rolled sideways out of the danger's way. The large sword cut through the ground beside him, and Adam quickly put the shield beside him and blocked all the debris that came flying towards him. Kuruma looked frozen as the sword was stuck in the ground, its arms trying to pull it out with all their might. Slowly, the sword started to get loose from the ground. At that moment, a silvery flash appeared in front of Kuruma, and then a short sword cut through the air and sliced through the hilt of the sword. It also managed to cut through a few of Kuruma's fingers. The large sword, with its white blade, lost its hilt. It wasn't possible to wield it anymore. Slowly, the white color left the blade, and it turned a dull grey color. He sliced through the hilt. Dakota looked surprised. He did it because now the sword cannot be used effectively. Ron said excitedly. Usually, the hilt is too small to be easily hit, but Kuruma's sword hilt was longer than most. In most cases, Kuruma would have just dodged the attempt on the hilt and blocked the attack with the blade. Now, it couldn't, as the sword was stuck in the ground. Also, because the hilt was made out of wood, it was easily the most vulnerable part of the sword. The hilt was the only part Kuruma didn't coat the weapon in white craft. It is not wise to coat the hilt with craft. Dakota touched her chin thoughtfully. It makes the weapon hard to grip, and it is easy for the sword to slip out of the grip. That's why none of the mercenaries ever coated their hilts in any craft. It is literally the only weak spot in craft, and somehow Adam was able to find it. How the fuck did he do this? Ron asked with a deep frown, staring at Adam on the screen. Just who are you? Attack! Adam shouted. Following that, all the players rushed like frantic animals and started delivering powerful blows across Kuruma's body. It was helpless. It was just standing there, trying to dodge attacks, but to no avail. The health dropped drastically. Soon, the health reached 25%, and Kuruma let out a deafening roar, surprising players. They realized that something was odd and quickly retreated. Adam nodded at that. It was wise to retreat if they weren't sure about what was going to happen. To them, Kuruma already became stronger once suddenly, and now it looked like it had another phase in store. At Kuruma's palm, a flickering fire appeared. It was small and seemingly harmless, but then the flickering fire turned more prominent and burst into a soccer-sized fireball. Now, in this phase, Kuruma has the ability of magic. Adam thought to himself and had already moved into his position. Hey, I think what is happening? Seth shouted from the back of the players. I think it is using 3 powers. First, that must have been craft. You saw how its attacks became so much stronger. Now, it is clearly using magic. Oh, he noticed it, not bad. Adam chuckled. I think you're right. Donald said with a nod. Be wary of long-range attacks. I think it can hurl those fireballs at us. Spread around, don't clump together.